So I'll be honest, this isn't one of my kind of snappiest titled classes, but it felt really, really relevant. And for me personally, um, this is a time when we have found ourselves being inundated by hey Holly, inundated by information, and inundated by information and trying to decipher what it is that we are supposed to be acting upon, what it is that we're not supposed to be acting upon, through this wider thing of lockdown. We have to be so vigilant at the moment with what we're digesting, what we're processing, what we don't. Um, and that can be really overwhelming and take its toll. Um, and so I was having a session with my coach on Tuesday, and I was just like a bundle of tears, and and necessarily so. It felt like an absolute, like I was leaning into it. It felt like an important process of feeling that way. Um, but in this time where, for me and my partner, my 5 day job is trying to be pushed into 2 days at the moment, and he's trying to fit 5 days into 3 days at the moment. And so this was the one day that I was supposed to be getting all my work done and put things out there and nurture the community and all that sort of thing. And all I wanted to do was just sit and feel sad, actually. And I felt really jarring and really torn. Like, what do I do here? How can I be of service? How can I make the most of this situation and make it a learning one for me? And she was like, okay, what's the one thing that you really want to do this week? I was like, well, I want to run like another masterclass next week. But I'm feeling super clouded with, I don't know what it's supposed to be about. And she's like, okay, so talk to me about how you're caring for yourself this week, and how you're deciphering all this information that's coming in at the moment. And I was like, okay, well, I'm stopping a lot, and I'm resting, and I'm journaling, and I'm meditating. I mean, this is kind of my bag of tools anyway, but they are really coming into their own at the moment, as a way to help me tune into what decisions I need to make, what decisions I don't need to make, and how I listen to those answers, even in times when I might feel overwhelmed, and how I can start to soften the noise around me and actually center in, focus in, get my spotlight of attention on actually my inner compass of what action I take. And then she was like, so tell me, what do you want to run this class about this week? And started laughing at me. I was like, yeah, okay, actually this is really relevant, and I'm sure I'm not alone in feeling this way. And so embodied decision making, being able to use tools that center us and begin to read the signals that we have both in our body and our mind, but really connect the two. We don't just have like a line across here. Our body is an extension of our minds, and more often than not is a reflection of things that are going on under the surface for us, they're more subconscious. And so to just be up here, just doesn't it, we're missing a total trick in terms of insight, and making these decisions. So that's why I'm here, and that's where I'm coming from. And if there is like a choice or a decision that you are dabbling with at the moment, then just bring that to mind, while we're moving through the sessions this evening, and see if perhaps you can apply some of this stuff today. Yeah, but to start, because we've just had dinner probably, and I've just got out the shower, and let's all center ourselves and arrive as well. So come to bring your feet on the floor if you're seated on a chair. If you're on a sofa, then just lay down and get comfortable. But let's really start to root. So if your feet are against the floor, feel the texture of the floor underneath your feet. Notice if your toes are gripping and give them a wiggle if they are. And see if you can find a bit of softness in the soles. And then scan up through your legs and into your pelvis and your belly, and notice where your body meets the chair or the sofa, whatever you're sitting on. And notice if there's any gripping or holding here. And it might require a bit of a wiggle around to release some of that. And just noticing, and then sending your attention right into the lower belly. And start to invite some softness in this area. And perhaps even placing a hand here, both hands here. So that contact of the hands, the kind contact of the hands, can just bring in a bit more softness and space here. A little less effort here. And then keep on scanning up through the body until you arrive at the chest. And across the collarbones and that space just below them. Notice if there is any collapsing of the chest. Is there a way that we can just wiggle, soften shoulders down, do what we need to do to find a little more space, a little more ease here. And move your attention down through your arms, down through your wrists into your hands, and your palms right to your fingertips. Notice if there isn't any effort in the hands, and can we find a little bit more rest and softness here? And that might require giving them a squeeze and a release a few times. And then finally bringing attention all the way up through the throat, through the neck. And if the head is either craning back or dropping forward, and seeing if we can find a little more lightness. And the head can lift a little further away from the shoulders. Notice the jaw, and if there's any gripping here, give it a wiggle like you're chewing a big piece of gum. And then feel the space of the mouth, and gums, the tongue resting down in the lower palate. And softening the eyes, and if your eyes are open, that's okay. Closing eyes isn't for everyone. Just casting them away from the screen. And letting the brow smooth. And the scalp soften and spread. And then we're going to take a big breath in, fill up right to the top of your breath. Take a little pause and then blow out your exhale. We're going to take a few more rounds like that. So breathing in, filling up right to the top. Now keep that going. Whatever pace works for you. Make it comfortable. And as you breathe out and you blow out that exhale, zip the navel in towards the spine. And we're going to take 5 more of these. And let's take one more here, right to the top. Great. And let the chin roll down. Let the shoulders soften down the back. And then begin to roll the chin back up. Cool. One more thing before we get started. We're going to take one hand and grip right at the top of the arm and squeeze it all the way down. Give it a little squeeze right down to the fingertips. And then do that twice more in this arm. Cool. Now when you've done on this arm, just let it rest down and just feel that whole left arm. And any sensation that's coming up from it, any temperature, pulsing, whatever your attention is drawn to, just noticing it. Like you've never noticed it before. Like it's a fresh experience. Because it is. And then come on to the other arm. And give that a squeeze. And give this arm 2 more squeezes. And then you've taken that final squeeze, then just like on the other side, let it rest down and feel that whole arm and any sensation that arises from it. And keep the breath steady, natural, flowing freely. Cool. And then we're going to do that with the legs as well. Just give one leg a squeeze right down to the, if you don't mind touching your feet, not everyone likes touching their feet. If you do, get like right into the arch of your foot and give that leg one more good squeeze. And then swap it over to the other side. Oh, before you do, feel that leg. Feel it first, notice it. And then come on to the other side and give this leg a few squeezes. Now, from experience, if we have had a busy day, if we are very much in our head, if I go on with that point, feel that leg. And we can become very disconnected from the sensations in our body, which are a hugely important chunk of our experience of being in a moment. And when it comes to embodiment, we want to be using this as part of our decision-making apparatus, equipment, insight. It is an additional thing to listen to, and it is the thing that doesn't really lie to us. Our body will always tell us, but we have to get into this state first where we can listen to it, where we can feel it. So before we get going, I wanted to, this is a little bit of fun. I mean, this is like embodied decision making and responses. You know, it's a nice place to start. But I just want you to really notice as I ask you these next few questions, where you feel this true or false answer in your body. So wherever you are, closing the eyes or letting them soften if that feels more comfortable. And I'm going to ask you a list of questions. And actually, no, I'm going to say to you a list of statements, And some of them will be true and some of them will be false. Now, when I say these statements, then you silently repeat them to yourself. And then notice where you feel the response for the true ones and the false ones, okay? So, get ready. Get those shoulders down, get that jaw soft. Let's take 3 big breaths in through our nose and sigh it out of the mouth. And make them really satisfying sighs, like releasing anything that's happened to you in the day sighs. And once more. Great. And so I'm going to start with these statements now, and you silently repeat them to yourself and notice where you feel the true or the false. I am a woman. I am in Australia. My favourite colour is blue. I drive. I live in an apartment. I'm married. I don't have kids. I am scared of spiders. I feel energized. I live in England. Okay. So tell me if you noticed anything from the responses in your body from the statements that were true and that were false. Because I don't want to go ahead and just give you the answer straight away. So have a think. Where did you feel the answers that felt true to you? And where did you feel the answers that felt false or were false? Okay. So, to see if anyone's no. Okay. So generally, when we find the true I felt in my chest and the false I felt in my stomach. Right, thank you. That was dead on time. You basically said exactly what I was about to say. So the answers tend to be anything from like the solar plexus up is where we feel the truth, the true. And anything from the true in my heart, tell me, cool. Agree with Jem, nice. And everything from the solar plexus down tends to be where we start to feel the jarring, the false. And so this is a little bit of fun, but it's something to start highlighting that there is some really tangible, visceral responses that we get when we start to, when we're looking for answers, when we're starting to decipher what is a decision that is aligned, that feels right for us, and a decision that isn't. Because our deepest instincts and intuitions work. They are among some of the most basic and time tested codes of our human operating system. But many of us have learned to override these over time, especially, within Western cultures and things. We glorify over anything else emotion, logic, reason, and these all have very important parts to play. But we do have this messaging system, gut feeling, negative. Yeah, completely, Victoria. If you've ever agreed to something that felt wrong for you, and then you go, oh, you can feel it in your belly. When we ignore our messaging system, our embodied messaging system, we can feel it, it feels jarring. And over time, if we continue to ignore this and always go with the opposite or a different decision from what our body's telling us, then we can end up living lives that feel completely unaligned. It can impact our health, it can impact the relationships that we keep and we make, our performance, our ability to learn. If we don't start to listen to these signals as an important part of decision making, then we're really missing a trick. It's like our body's saying turn left and then we continue to turn right every time. And the more we continue to do that, the less connected we can become to these messages. And just like anything, like any sort of practice, I think probably say this in every class that I share with you guys in here. The more that we do it, the more natural it becomes, the better we become at it, the more in tune we become with it. And so, what is embodiment? Well, in the context of this evening, embodiment means not seeing the body as something separate and not just simply being aware of the body, like in mindfulness, but instead it's actually experiencing and knowing that the body is an extension of the mind. The mind is not simply in our brain. Our mind is all of this. And this is where it starts to become an embodied experience, embodied decision making. We have all had a situation where we had to make a decision. The answer came to us and there's no denying it, and everything in your body shouts, yes, yes, this is the one, this is the one. And when we are able to listen to that answer and act upon it, and it's as if the process skips this filter of us going, oh, what will other people think of me? Or, oh, how can I afford it? Or, blah, 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 the ruminating that can begin if we don't jump upon that yes feeling, this is right, let's go for it straight away. And when we've had that experience that like all systems point yes, let's go, any sort of challenge that comes up, we'll find a way around it, like it feels like it could be the easiest action to take. And this overwhelming experience of the yes, and this being an experience, the word being experience is important here because we're not just thinking about it, we're experiencing the yes, we're experiencing that this is the right decision. We're feeling it in our cells, we're feeling it in our muscles, in our gut, in our organs, in our fascia. Everything is saying this is the right choice to make. Getting the answers we need to move forward in any area of our life is an experience to be had and to be listened to. If we allow our decisions to be purely made in the mind, we run the risk of ruminating, of getting stuck in the emotional filter, the subconscious pre-programmed loops and filters, the negative chatter, the limited beliefs, the ones that are formed in childhood, so they're seriously updated, but they still try and keep us safe and stop us from moving forward in the way we need to move forward. So, for example, last week, I was, as I said, I was feeling really overwhelmed with just the world. What is my place in this? What do I need to do? What can I do? What do I want to do? And in amongst all this, still kind of function and run my business and be a mum and make money to pay bills and do all this. What do I need to do? And actually, I was starting to look at like, right, I need to educate myself. This is the first step. I need to educate myself. And I happened to go on, I think it was Instagram, and Holly, who's here with us right now, she just said that she joined up to the Nova Read course. And I followed Nova for a while. And I was like, straight over to that. And looked at her course, read it. Yes, I need to do this. This is the right thing. This is the next step. Everything in my body was saying, yes, yes, yes. And then I went off and did something else. And in that period of time, I had a chance to let all of my filters come into the mix and go, you're not going to have enough time to do this. Or, we can't really afford it right now. And starting to ruminate, starting to find ways to not learn something new, to take the first action I needed to take. And it was starting to, and I could feel it in my body. It felt jarring. It was holding me back from this thing that I really needed to do. And I'd already made the decision here and then here. And then my mind had started to throw up, my subconscious had started to throw up a whole lot of hurdles that I needed to somehow bat off or allow them to wash over me and completely take over the situation, and then me be stuck and me not take the action forward that I needed to take. So I brooded and stopped and started, and it felt uncomfortable, and I'm like, what am I doing? And then I used the tools that I have, and I stopped and I took some time away from the screen, and I shook my body out, and I did some breath work, and I came back to it. And the money, all of a sudden I was like, they do an installment plan, great, this is fine, I can do this now. Okay, that issue's out the way. So what's my next thing? I don't have enough time. Well, there's no time frame on this, so it doesn't matter. I can take my time and I can make good use of this incredible course that's available to me. And so I did it. And as soon as I signed up, my whole body went, oh, thank fuck for that. Why didn't you just listen to us in the first place? Have you ever had that feeling where you've compromised on something? You've kind of like half done it, but then you've tried to keep people happy. And then the action's been taken. Tell me if anyone has had this experience. How does it feel in your body when you realize that you've compromised? You've compromised in a way that actually now the action that you've taken isn't the one that needed to be taken, or it's been kind of half done. For me, in those experiences, we were just talking about how we feel the nose in our bellies. It can feel like, it can feel ick. And then you're like, oh, I compromised and I didn't actually take the action that I needed to take. We've gone against what we knew was right for us and for others, and we allow that emotional filter to step in. There will be times when we can't just do what we want straight away, but I need to put that out there as well. But in those moments, through embodied inquiry, we can ask, okay, right now isn't the time. We've got a new baby, or money is seriously tight, or whatever the thing is that you're trying to do or take part in. You can still, through embodied inquiry, getting centered, calming your nervous system down, moving to that rest and digest state, using some breath work, shaking out your body, clearing that agitation, and then asking yourself, okay, so what are my hurdles here? What are my real hurdles? Logistically, what are my hurdles to this? And emotionally, what are my hurdles here? What's coming up? Why am I feeling scared to do this, perhaps, or resistant to do this? And from this place of centeredness, then you can ask yourself, well, what are my options here? How do I move through them? What needs to be let go of to make this happen in 6 months' time, if this isn't the time right now? And if these things can be let go of, am I ready to fully let go of these things? Am I willing to? And if you're not, well, then accepting and knowing that you're going against the grain. All of this process, albeit uncomfortable, can give us incredible insight into that something that is incredibly important to us. And it can start to highlight that there are areas of our life that are holding us back from living fully in line, fully living in line with our values. And Joe's just like, yes, recently I compromised the feeling. Yeah, it feels thick and heavy and yuck. And it's amazing how you've used the word dark barrier. It does put like this lens that you then see the whole experience through. And so if we can't take action straight away, we can still use these embodied inquiries. Okay, Victoria said, I get a tight feeling in my belly when I can't make up my mind. Put off the decision, get ready, but when I go ahead, I feel relief and think, what was that all about? It's amazing. The relief is real. Because our body's just going, listen to me, listen to me. Oh, okay, you've listened to me. Oh, finally. It's an incredible experience, and it's one that if we listen to not just in the aftermath of making a decision, but actually as part of the process of making the decision, then we can, like, we have so much more insight available to us. Here, we've got reasoning, we've got past experience, we have emotion, we have our prefrontal cortex, which is really important. And if we can access it and be thinking from a place of being in rest and digest, so not in fight and flight, because if we're in any sort of stress, our prefrontal cortex is inhibited. And for those of you who are new to the prefrontal cortex, it enables us to see things clearly, gain perspective, and understand consequence as well. So if we can get to that centered place, we can have this bodily experience, this deep visceral insight, but also have access to this part of our brain which enables us to see things like on a much more wider picture. And James said, I get a lot of guilt feelings, and then get anxious and stomach is going like mad, and then the relief after is like a rock has been taken off my chest. Yeah, and it's amazing when we write this down. Even just reading through your comments, the words that you're using, these are not kind of small subtle sensations. These are, rocks being lifted and feeling sick, and it's not like, oh, I just feel a bit uncomfortable. And so if we can start to move in line with this stuff, we save ourselves a whole lot of discomfort, physical discomfort, as well as emotional, as well as anything else. So when we start to live more in line, we start to do these inquiries, we start to ask ourselves the questions: if now is not the time, what are my hurdles? How can I start to move through them? And if I'm not ready to let go of certain things that need to be let go of, then that is really helpful information. You're saying, right now, I don't feel ready to take this next step. Well, that personal insight is like gold dust. And take it with gratitude. Yes, it's not always nice to hear that you don't feel ready to do something. But to know that you feel that way is incredibly helpful. Incredibly helpful. Embodied decision making has the potential of breaking our cycles of behaviour that we find ourselves in time and time again. And the answers that arise that call us to take action, the ones that are triggering our fears of, oh, you can't do this now, or oh, there's not enough time, that was my one this week, or oh, you're not clever enough to do that, or oh, you're not disciplined to do that, whatever your negative chatter is, we're not X, Y, and Z enough of. These answers arise, they call us to take action, and they trigger these fears and these negative chatters that are holding us back. And it means that this situation is asking us to do something that we haven't done before. So through embodied decision making, we can go, aha, okay, I've noticed that a friend of mine who's a coach, he calls it Neggy Nancy. Nancy's having a chat with me right now. Interesting. What is this triggering in my old belief system of I'm not good enough, I'm not this, that, and the other, about what's about this situation that's triggering me, that's making me fearful? Well, this is probably a sign that, one, this is new territory and there is potentially some room to grow here. because my subconscious right now is suddenly freaking out because it's worried that I'm going to do something new. So it's going to throw all of its tools at me to try and keep me safe and keep me stuck and keep me here and not growing and not learning. Because our subconscious hates change, it does not like change, full stop. So even if we know properly through all of this inquiry as well that it's the right choice, our subconscious will go, oh, that's new. Don't really like the sound of that. I think maybe we need to keep you safe. Let's just tell you how rubbish you are, and you get back, get back in your box. So when that starts to be triggered, you know that you're on the right track to have a really important embodied decision-making process. You know that there's some opportunity to learn here and some opportunity to grow. Now, sometimes when we have that embodied resounding yes experience, take note. Notice how you breathe. Notice how you hold yourself. Notice how you feel when you start to take action from that aligned decision that you made, when you start living it. And then each and every time you get that resounding yes, and you can feel your breath starts to come in a little bit more, your diaphragm is able to drop a little more, your belly soft, your jaw is soft. You're holding yourself in a way that is totally unprotected. It's saying yes, yes, yes. Take notice of those yes experiences. Don't let them pass without fully experiencing them and enjoying them and learning from them, as well as the jarring experiences of the no's and the this isn't the right times. When we get that decision of yes, this is the right thing to do, even if it means that we're going to have to take some really challenging actions or put us in some really uncomfortable situations that we're new to, or requires us to have an uncomfortable conversation that we've never had to really encounter before to start living in the way that we want to, or take action, or whatever this decision might be asking us, calling us to do. When we make that decision, yeah, I'm going to do it. How does it feel? Notice it. Get to know these responses that are completely unfiltered. And notice how we respond without overthinking. So some of my most important decisions that I've made, particularly as like a young adult as well, I packed up my bags and went to India on my own, and there was no worry. It was just yes, yes, yes. Booked it all. Didn't think about it. Let's go. Let's do this. This is absolutely, it's the right time. It's the right thing. I didn't overthink it. And when everything was in place and I'm stepping on that plane, I felt aligned. I felt like, mountain pose in yoga. I felt like the pure 100% mountain. I felt brave. And it just felt right. And I was doing something that on paper, I look back at it now, I'm like, that sounds really scary. But at the time, it was absolutely right. I didn't overthink it. Any challenges I met as they came to me. And it makes us brave. When we make these choices that are aligned, even if they're big, if they're new, it makes us brave. And in the context of what we're experiencing in the world over these last few weeks, and in context with the decision that I wanted to make in terms of how I start to educate myself in anti-racism, that sense of bravery will add to the action that needs to continually be taken. It will the bravery that is required for us to speak out, to step up. Now, however, say we get our answer of yes, but then we're flooded with the fear. We're flooded with the fear ask yourself, am I called to be doing something new right now? Have I done this before? And what are these fears and chatter trying to tell me or keep me from? What are these fears that are being triggered as soon as we get the yes, this is the right thing to do? What are these fears trying to tell me? What are they trying to keep me safe from? And there are an opportunity here to get to know that negative chatter, because it won't be the last time it comes up. So all of these opportunities, all these touch points, whether we get the resounding yes, whether we get the no, or we get the yes but we get flooded with fear, all of these situations are incredibly insightful, not just for the decision we need to make, but also for the way that we live in a more embodied way and a more informed, personally aware way. Because we're engaging all the layers of ourselves to ask these questions, to make these decisions. So they can be an incredible way of self-development by applying embodied decision making in our day-to-day. And in addition to this, when we're looking at making decisions, the pillars of mindfulness here, I talk about them a lot. And let me just make sure there's no comments I haven't said anything to. Okay. The pillars of mindfulness here are so helpful because they can enable us to maintain kind of a neutrality. They enable us to stay non-judgmental to ourselves and fresh-minded. Sometimes references a beginner's mind in mindfulness. And these pillars of mindfulness can really act as a state of being when we're listening, when we're paying attention, when we're asking ourselves the question and going, what do I do? What the fuck do I do? And we can start to step back if it's feeling sticky or just not getting the answers. We can be like, well, hold on, am I really being fully neutral right now? Am I judging myself for that just came up? Am I judging myself for wanting this? Because judging ourselves in that moment is going to totally block us from listening to what's truly coming up. And are we treating this experience with a fresh mind, with a beginner's mind? And if this isn't a kind of a reference point you're familiar with, they talk about beginner's mind in mindfulness and mindful breath awareness and meditation as every moment is a completely unique and fresh moment. So Thich Nhat Hanh talks about how no two breaths are ever the same. So when you're attentive to an inhale and an exhale for a round, you have just experienced a completely unique experience that will never happen again. And that's an example of beginner's mind. Or watching the breath with a freshness like you've never watched your breath before. And that can be applied so beautifully to this work, so beautifully to our experience. Not trying to almost go, oh yeah, I felt this feeling before, I know what it means. Actually treating this experience as a unique one, as an opportunity to learn and grow and inquire a little deeper. Excuse me. So have you ever found yourself in an experience where you've tried to keep everyone happy? Like it's our responsibility to keep everyone happy. I tell you now, it's not, but you know, what are you going to do? Many of us, myself included, we want to keep everyone happy. And we end up doing a half version of what we set out to do. We skirted around the full action that needed to be taken. We enabled the chatter to govern the response enough to keep us in our comfort zone. And it almost felt like you honoured your needs. almost, but you manage to keep the negative chatter happy, and you manage to keep everyone around you happy, and you kind of half did what you needed to do. It's like letting your kid walk to yeah, Victoria, this is common, right? And I just like to reiterate this: keeping everyone else happy, that is not a responsibility. I tell you now. Oh, it was the most liberating thing. My coach telling me that I'm not responsible for other people's emotions and responses. But this is, it's a work in progress, a full work in progress. But when we take this half version of this action, of this decision, and we kind of trick ourselves into thinking we kind of did it, it's like letting your kid walk to school on their own, but really you were just a few meters behind them, maybe disguised as a bush. And every step of the way, you're ready to pounce if we think that they're going to cross the road at the wrong time. We didn't give them the freedom that they needed. We didn't give them the experience of walking to school on their own and feeling brave and feeling grown up. They got a half experience. So what must also need to be considered when we embark on this much deeper listening form of decision making? Because we're moving into new territory when we're making decisions in our life. And even if we aren't, and we've had the overruling big fat yes that we were talking about earlier, and that negative chatter has been overruled, what needs to be considered with our decision is, and this comes with this embodied approach, is what resource, time, support, self-care, energy, rest, preparation, reflection, time, what resource of any of this is needed so that I can do this? It's not what's standing in my way, it's what do I need so I can have that conversation, so I can complete that course, so I can make that change to the way I eat, whatever it might be. This is part of the embodied decision-making process as well. It's removing the barriers and seeing this much wider picture of possibility. And so when you are considering what's needed, what do I need to resource myself with so I can carry this out, stay connected to that initial, yes, this is right, instead of diving in and then realizing a week later that you haven't made the time, or you haven't been caring for yourself, and you're not getting the most out of this decision or action that you've taken. You can stay connected to that initial yes is right, yes, this is right, and learn the very most from what it is that you're doing. So how do we do it? Well, we get centered and we clear stress first. Simple. And that enables us to have full access to the prefrontal cortex, but also have a further capability of tuning into our bodily sensation, which isn't being completely overthrown by a stress response. So a really simple practice that I like to do to start to clear tension and stress away from the body is to shake my body. And so, you can do it with me now. I'll do a really short version. I'm conscious of time. I don't want to keep you guys forever this evening. But just like swinging your arms, or just doing like one arm at a time. Do here so my head's not cut off while I'm doing it. Do one arm at a time, and the other arm. And how earlier we were squeezing our body out as well. Shake your leg out. Do a few sun salutations. Do whatever you need to do. But look, if you're stressed and you're going through the stress response, sometimes one of the worst things that you can do is lie on the floor and breathe, because your nervous system's telling you to run away from a lion. Like, get the fudge out of there. really fast. And so if you lie down on the floor, your body will be going, she's not running. Let's give her a little bit more adrenaline and cortisol and noradrenaline straight away. Let's see if we can perk this chick up. So what we need to do when we're faced with stress is actually meet it with a little bit of movement first. And that enables the stress hormones to metabolize. It enables that fight and flight to run its course. And then you can start to come down and settle a little more. So something very simple like shaking out your body. I just did a really fast example of it. But doing that for like 2 minutes, swinging your arms, remembering how good it felt when you were 5 and you used to do it, you know? And maybe closing the eyes. And if that makes you feel dizzy, keep the eyes open, that's totally fine. And a breathing practice that I really like that is my go-to, is the golden thread practice. And so actually I'd like to guide you guys through this now. And if you have come with a question or a decision that you are feeling stuck with, then just either having it written down in front of you or just bringing it to mind. And just finding a comfortable seat. And I'm just going to read some of these comments before we get started. Loved you mentioning the feeling brave. I can see how I felt the opposite when doing things I don't feel totally aligned with, like I'm acting a small, yes. Beautifully said, Jo. Yes, it's like I'm acting the small, quiet, fearful version of myself. Because we've let the chatter rule the roost. And when we don't, we're here. We feel brave. It's powerful stuff. So you can either lie down for this, or you can sit down in your chair, either close your eyes or let your focus soften. And just giving everything a little wiggle. Shoulders, neck, jaw, whatever you need to do. And then we're going to bring our attention to the breath. Now, the golden thread breath enables us to lengthen the exhale longer than inhale. And over time, this will also in turn deepen your inhale. So it's a very gentle way of deepening both halves of the breath. And so to begin, let's start by taking a full deep breath in right to the top. And then make the smallest parting between your lips and blow out your exhale here. And keep that going, filling up right to the top. And then finding that tiniest parting of the lips. And imagine this is like a silk golden thread leaving the lips. And now keep this going, keep this breath going. Now visualizing this golden silk thread beginning to wind and float and extend out of the lips with every exhale you take. Keep blowing out of the exhale. And this shining golden silk thread. And sensing the body softening some effort with every round of breath. And now bringing your question or decision that you've been stuck with or are looking for an answer, bring it to mind now. Bring this situation to mind. And simply asking yourself, what's my route here? And what path do I take? Noticing if a few options start to come to mind. Notice if, as you simply ask this question, is there any contracting in the body? And where do you feel that if there's contracting? Does that contraction feel fearful or jarring? Where might feel expansive, spacious, free? And where do you feel that in the body as you explore these options and paths to take? And we're going to take a deep breath in now and sigh that exhale out of the mouth and make it really satisfying. And with the eyes still closed or the focus soft, let your breath return to a natural pace. And bring to mind in a month's time or 6 months' time, whatever this time frame is of this decision that you need to make or this action that you need to take. And if we could wave a magic wand, if there were no boundaries or hurdles here, where would you be? What action would you have taken? And bring to mind an image of yourself having taken this action. And that you have made the right intuitive decision, the one that honours you, your needs, your values, what makes your heart sing. And as you see this image of yourself having taken the intuitive action, this intuitive decision, how do you hold yourself in that image? What are you wearing? How are you holding yourself? How do you speak? How would you describe the quality of you in this month ahead vision or 6 month ahead vision? How are you caring for yourself? How are you spending your time with? Who are you connecting with? What has been let go of to get you there? And what action did you take to get you there? Now, be kind to yourself. If this answer hasn't come to you easily, don't worry. That's okay. Any insights, jot it down. And if you haven't got the full answer yet, that's okay. Keep inquiring and noticing the full embodied response. Keep on asking, what is the fear here? What is blocking me seeing this answer? And so when you feel ready, just opening up the eyes, having a stretch and a wiggle. No, that was a short breathing practice and visualization. But even in that short time, we can start to almost amplify the bodily experience and put it into context with what we want some answers for. And if anybody has anything they want to share in the comments, I'd love to hear how anybody found that. And again, don't worry if you didn't get the full blown, now I know what to do light bulb moment straight away. This is an example of something, this kind of ongoing inquiry. Tuning in, listening, feeling into bits that feel uncomfortable, noticing what might be blocking you seeing that image of yourself. But also there's something really incredible about connecting with our future version of ourselves, even if it's just like in a week's time. Once we've taken that action, how do I feel? How am I communicating with people? So for me, in context with starting this course, how am I going to communicate what I learn with people? How do I feel about gaining this knowledge? What is the purpose of this? How am I going to put this into the best practice I can so that I can serve others? Visualizing how your life will be different once you make that decision, however big or small it will be. If the fear is getting it wrong, getting the decision wrong, explore why that would be bad. Challenge that. Fear of failure is massive in many of us, right? So, fear of failure, of judgment. What if we could let these go just for a minute? And if this doesn't have the desired outcome you hoped, if you make this embodied decision and it fails, failure is such a subjective thing and shouldn't be seen as a failure, and we tend to attach our self-worth to things that don't go to plan or don't go as we wanted them to. But for a moment when we're taking this inquiry and we feel blocked, we feel scared that we're going to take the wrong choice, even if if we're listening to all these signals and we're still getting that fear that we're going to get this decision wrong, for a moment humor yourself and say, what if I could let these fears go for a minute? What if I could do this and not be scared of failure? What if I knew it was going to work? What if it didn't matter if it didn't work? What decision would I make then? What if I didn't give a fuck what anybody thought about me? What would my decision be then? Failure is only failure and not considered learning experience when we pose our own personal judgments and self-worth upon it. What is the expansive feelings here? Visualize taking the decision and the body feels ease and fullness and space and breath. Where do you feel that in your body? Bring that to mind when that fear of failure and judgment of other people comes up. What has been let go of to have made space for this action to happen? Know that when you move into an aligned action, there is no turning back. You have evolved, you have expanded, and have freed yourself from a cycle in one thing or another, a subconscious loop. When you've moved, I'm going to say that again, when you've moved into aligned action, when you've heard Neggy Nancy and gone, thank you very much, I'm going to give this a go anyway, and you take that action and you feel the yes in your body or the no in your body, or the I need to do this, I need to change this in my body, as in you feel the answer, not that you need to change your body. Definitely don't need to change your body. There is no turning back from that. You have broken a subconscious loop. You've grown, you've evolved in that moment. And the big question then, will you do it? Now that you have the answer and you know what action you need to take and you know that that's the right thing to do, will you do it? How are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? Get some accountability straight away. And that might be saying it out loud to someone, saying it to your partner, saying it to a mate, this is what I'm doing. Get someone to check in with you and give you a nudge. Then take in those care considerations we talked about earlier. What resource, time, support, self-care, energy, rest, prep, reflection is needed so that I can do this? So that I can do this and I can get the most out of this and I can learn the most out of this. And what will happen if I don't do this? If I get all of this insight and then I do nothing with it, what is the risk then? What is the risk of no action? If nothing changes, it changes. What is the consequence of that? Embodied decision making is about self-care, self-honouring and resourcing ourselves. And each embodied decision that we make and action that we take enables us to live more freely and connected. So, before I close this evening, I have to do, well, firstly, I want to hear how that landed with you guys. So if you have any comments or anything that you want to share, pop them in the comments now. So why have I started talking about embodiment lots over these last 6 months? Well, because I've been training in it. And through training in it, actually to apply into yoga, it's now been sweeping into the way that I coach people. And what I've been seeing firsthand and feeling from my own experience of using these tools is that embodiment, it's empowering. It's insightful like nothing I've experienced before. And this embodied decision making is woven hugely into Thrive, the 3-month coaching program that I'm running that's going to start next Monday. And the early bird I extended to tonight. So we've got until midnight for that early bird to continue. To start living in trust of your own innate wisdom, intuition, trust that you are worthy of the actions that you're taking and the changes that need to be made. Trust that we are a priority and the impact that caring for ourselves and taking action from this more connected place is not going to just benefit us, it's going to have a wider good. We will be thriving, for want of sounding really cringy and having a little sneaky line in there, but it enables us to thrive. As women still living in a patriarchal system, self-care is an act of political uprising. It's a bold move. They don't want us women to be thinking freely and being ourselves and challenging everything we've been told, marketed to our whole life. And so with that I've come across a quote by Audre Lorde this last week, and it feels so relevant to what we've been talking about tonight, where we find ourselves in as a society, as a Western society at the moment, and just in context with us caring for ourselves as people. And she wrote, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." How wonderful is that? It's a bold move to tune into what we want. It's a bold move to take action from that place. And it's a bold move to care for ourselves in that way. So, with that, I'm just going to read some of the comments. I'm going to try and be more brave and listen to myself rather than everyone else. Yes, Victoria, amazing. So I'd love to hear how this all lands with you over these next few days to come. If you'd like to kind of delve into this a little bit deeper with me, then you know where I am. I'm working one-to-one through coaching, but as I said, this Thrive coaching program starts on Monday, and it's a group coaching program. I'm only accepting a handful of women, but it's going to be 3 months of self-care, of empowered embodiment practices, like starting to learn how to really tune into what makes you tick, what do you desire, what do you value, and start to use that as the foundations of how you live. So there's a mixture of group coaching and one-to-one coaching in that. But if you'd like to work one-to-one with me, then you know where I am. If you have any questions about this, you know where I am. But thank you so much for joining me this evening. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely, lovely rest of your evening now. And I hope to see you soon. I'm sending you all the love, and I hope some of that's been helpful for you this evening. Yeah. Thank you.